There's something no one tells you when depression hits you. It doesn't always feel like sadness. Sometimes it feels like nothing at all, like an invisible weight dragging you through days that all feel the same. You wake up, and it's like the world is coated in a gray fog. And maybe the worst part isn't even the pain, it's the silence underneath it. The feeling that your mind has become a stranger's house you no longer want to live in. But what if that emptiness is not your enemy? Eckhart Tolle, the man who wrote The Power of Now, would look you in the eyes and tell you something strange, even uncomfortable. This moment is not the problem. Your resistance to it is. At first, that sounds infuriating because depression feels real, heavy, unshakable. How can the moment not be the problem when everything inside you is screaming? But Tolle's philosophy begins with one radical shift: awareness. The kind that steps back from the storm and says, I am not the storm. I am the space in which the storm happens. When you're depressed, your mind feeds you stories that you're broken, that you've failed. Those things will never change. It replays scenes from the past, projects horrors into the future, and traps you in an endless loop of suffering. But Toll would tell you this: none of that is you. It's the voice in your head, and it's been lying to you for a very long time. Here's the secret most people miss. Depression isn't just a mental illness. It's also a spiritual signal, a wake-up call, a breakdown of a false self, the ego that can no longer survive. And in the ruins of that collapse, something extraordinary can happen. Presence, not the kind of presence where everything suddenly becomes joyful or easy, but the kind where you stop running, where, just for a moment, you look directly at what is: the ache, the numbness, the restlessness, and you say, I see you. That moment of seeing without judging, without labeling, is what Toll calls the beginning of awakening. And yes, even in depression, especially in depression, that doorway is wide open. Toll often speaks about the pain body, a term he uses for the emotional energy stored in us from past trauma and unprocessed experiences. For many, depression is the pain body awakening, not to harm you, but to ask for healing. And healing doesn't come from thinking your way out. It comes from being with what is. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you sat in silence without trying to escape it? Not scrolling, not numbing, just being. That's where everything changes. Because in that stillness, the illusion of the mind starts to weaken, and you realize something profound. The suffering isn't in the situation. It's in the story you're telling yourself about the situation. Now, this doesn't mean your depression isn't real, or that it's all in your head in some dismissive way. It means that the mind has become your prison, and presence is the key. When Toll speaks about the ego, he describes it as a phantom self that lives in time. It feeds on the past or the future, but cannot exist in the now. That's why depression, which often thrives on regrets and fears, loses power when you fully anchor yourself in the present moment. Try this. Close your eyes and feel your breath. Not thinking about your breath, feeling it. The air is entering your nostrils, the rise of your chest, the pause between inhale and exhale. In that tiny sliver of awareness, your mind pauses, just for a second. But in that second, you experience freedom. Most people think freedom means escaping depression. But Eckhart would say, true freedom is the ability to remain present with whatever is happening, without adding mental commentary. And the more you practice this, the more you begin to notice something subtle. The depression begins to shift. Not because you forced it to, but because you stopped feeding it. Your thoughts are not your enemies, but they are not your masters either. When you believe every thought that passes through your mind, you give away your power. Toll teaches that you are not the thinker. You are the awareness behind the thought. This is where depression meets awakening. Think about it. Most spiritual awakenings don't happen in moments of bliss. They happen when everything falls apart. When the identity you spent years constructing begins to dissolve. When the things that used to give you meaning no longer do. And when the noise of the world fades, what's left you? Not the version of you with titles, goals, and achievements, but the raw, aware, silent presence that sees without judging. That's the real you. And the depression, painful as it is, can bring you there. But there's another trap, one Toll warns about. It's the ego wearing a spiritual mask. The part of you that wants to transcend depression, to fix it, to use spirituality as a way to escape your humanity. That path leads to more suffering, because presence isn't a strategy. It's not a tool to get better. It's the reality underneath the illusion of getting and becoming. It's the truth that you don't need to become anything. You already are. This doesn't mean you stop seeking help. Toll never says that depression means you shouldn't talk to someone, or seek therapy, or even use medication if necessary. But what he does say is that all external help works best when combined with internal awareness, and that begins by noticing. Noticing when your mind starts spinning stories, noticing when you feel the pull of despair, noticing when the pain body rises, and instead of resisting it, you greet it. You say, "I see you," and you breathe. Even now, as you're listening, there's a part of you that is aware of your thoughts. That's not depressed. That's not anxious. That's not broken. That part is you, the one watching, the one listening, the one who knows, deep down, that there's more to you than this temporary fog. So, what would Eckhart Tolle say to you right now? He'd say this: you are not your mind. You are not your past. You are not your suffering. You are the awareness in which all of this appears, and you have forgotten. And remembering that, even for a few seconds, is like sunlight cracking through the darkest clouds. Let that silence hold you. Let that breath return you. Let that presence carry you, because you are not lost. You are just waking up. Waking up doesn't always look like enlightenment. Sometimes it looks like crying in the shower. Sometimes it's sitting on your bed, staring at the floor, not knowing who you are anymore. But Eckhart Tolle would say, that's still awakening. Because the identity that is crumbling was never truly you. It was the accumulation of mental patterns, past pain, and imagined futures. And now, you're being invited into something deeper, something real, presence. But presence can feel terrifying when you're used to distraction. When you're used to running from yourself, sitting still with your emotions feels like sitting with fire. The silence feels loud. The stillness feels unbearable. And the mind, desperate to survive, tells you this moment is dangerous. But it's not. It's unfamiliar, yes, but not dangerous. You're meeting yourself without a filter for the first time, and that is sacred. Eckhart Tolle would remind you, the pain you feel is not who you are, it's a pattern. And patterns can dissolve. They don't need to be fixed. They need to be seen. Fully, completely, with no judgment. That's where true healing begins, not to be happy, not with a plan to overcome depression, but with radical acceptance of what is in this moment. You feel heavy. Allow it. You feel numb. Witness it. You feel angry at your mind. Breathe through it, because whatever you resist persists. But whatever you allow begins to shift. Toll often talks about the power of surrender. Not surrender as in giving up, but as in giving in. Surrendering to the now, not because it's what you want, but because it's what is. Depression thrives in resistance. It feeds on the story that this shouldn't be happening. But when you stop fighting the moment, you free yourself from the prison of expectation. Ask yourself, can I be the space for this feeling instead of the feeling itself? That's the shift. You stop being the depressed one and start being the awareness holding the sadness. And awareness is always free, always unbroken. Even in your worst moments, even when you feel like you've hit the bottom, something deeper is holding you. Call it life. Call it stillness. Call it God if that resonates. But Toll calls it being, and being is untouched by your suffering. It is the background stillness behind every thought, every emotion, every wave of despair. And it's never left you. Toll says the mind loves to label everything as a problem. It says, this depression is ruining my life. But what if it's not? What if it's returning you to your life, returning you to the moment you've been avoiding, to the breath you forgot, to the self beneath all the noise? This isn't easy. It's not supposed to be, but it is simple. Return to now. That's it. You don't need to analyze your entire past. You don't need to fix every belief. You don't even need to be better. You just need to come back, again and again. Not as a discipline, but as a remembering. As a kindness. The truth is, your healing is not in the future. It's not when I finally feel better. It's not when I figure it all out. Healing begins when you allow yourself to feel without shame, without story, without pressure, Toll would say. Whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it. That sounds outrageous when you're in pain. But it's not about liking the pain. It's about stepping out of the story that pain is failure. That discomfort means something is wrong with you. It doesn't. It just means you're human, and perhaps more awake than you realize. Depression can be the death of the ego, the unraveling of everything you thought you needed to be. And what's left when all of that dies? Stillness, peace, not a peace that means you'll never hurt again, but a peace that says, I can be with whatever arises and still know who I am. Who are you? Not your job, not your past, not your trauma, not even your thoughts. You are the witness. You are the silence between the thoughts. You are the awareness in which sadness comes and goes like clouds across the sky. And when you stop identifying with every passing cloud, you begin to feel the vastness of the sky itself. That's what depression has been trying to teach you all along. But let's not romanticize it either. Depression hurts. It isolates. It blinds. And if you're struggling to survive, know this. It's okay to ask for help. Toll never says presence replaces support. He says it enhances it. Therapy, community, medication, these are all valid paths. Presence is simply the ground underneath them, the place you return to when the noise gets loud. You are not alone in this. In fact, the very idea that you are separate, that you are the only one who feels this way, is another illusion of the mind. Everyone suffers. Everyone feels lost. Everyone breaks at some point. But few allow their breaking to become awakening. You are one of the few. Because here you are, listening, breathing, questioning, peeling back the layers of thought to meet the stillness beneath. That is not weakness. That is courage. So here's what Eckhart Tolle would want you to remember. This moment is not your enemy. Your thoughts are not your truth. You are not broken, you are becoming. And sometimes the darkness is not here to destroy you. It's here to show you the light you forgot you carried, so stay with yourself. Not in judgment, but in presence. Be the silent observer of your mind. Watch the fear. Watch the sadness. Watch the voice that says, I can't do this. And see that you are not that voice. You are the one hearing it, and the one who hears is always free. If you've made it this far, I want to ask you something. Have you ever experienced a moment of deep presence where everything was still, even just for a second, even in the middle of pain? If so, share it in the comments below. Your story might be the light someone else needs to hear right now. And if not, maybe that moment is happening right now, right here, in this breath, in this silence. Let it hold you. Let it remind you. You are not lost. You are coming home. And if this message resonated with you, like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's a small gesture, but it tells others, and more importantly, yourself, that you're choosing presence and choosing yourself. Thank you for being here. Stay awake, stay aware, and remember, even in the darkness, you are the light.